kind of shed some light on who you are.
My name is Sal. I was born here in Paramount. My household doesn't even exist anymore. It's a clinic now, the Suburban Hospital. I'm 28 years old. I first got saved when I was 19, so I just finished high school, and I was like, man, what am I going to do with my life? And before, in high school growing up, my mom worked all her life, day and nights. She was a single mom, and I was able to do whatever I wanted whenever, right? No supervision. My sisters, they were crazy. They were on their own. They were living with us, but, they would only sleep at home. They would be out with their friends, partying. And me, I was like, man, if they could do whatever they want, no one's watching me.
So how many of there was you guys?
So on my mom's side, I have two older sisters, and then I'm the middle child, and then it's my younger brother, Mark. And then on my father's side, I have a half brother. His name is Lenny. And he was disabled since he was little. He was 10 months old. He was in a car accident.
So the two older sisters were your half sisters.
Yeah, and then I also have a younger sister that's 2 months difference between my younger brother with my dad's side, but with a different woman.
Okay.
So my family was everywhere.
Yeah, just okay. So you had two older sisters you grew up with in the house.
Yes.
And then these are half sisters, and then you and your brother.
Yeah, to basically raise my brother because I was his supervision. So I was, he always wanted to be with me. I mean, he had no choice. I was always like, man, get over there. I would be with my friends, and he would see the things I would do. He was just there. He was like my shadow. He wouldn't say anything, but at times where he wasn't mean or anything, but he was there and just watching the sins of, not sins of the father, sins of the brother. Just seeing everything that I would do.
So being that your mom and dad, they weren't together, obviously, right? They were separated. And so your dad, was he a part of your life?
My dad wasn't a part of my life. He wasn't there when I was born. He was a part of my life maybe about 8th grade, 7th grade. He would come around, and I met him, and I was like, okay. Like, I don't even know what a dad is, so, my mom had a boyfriend, so I'm like, oh, he's just probably another boyfriend, So I met him, and he
For the first time when you were...
I was maybe around, 12, 13, maybe, 14?
Okay.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure he would come in and out of my life, but when I truly met who he was, like, oh, this is your dad, it was around that age, because my dad was, he had he owned a nightclub in Compton, and, he was in and out of jail, he would sell drugs. So my mom didn't want that guy around, so when he was coming into my life, he got saved. He started going to church at the time, so he stopped doing the things he was doing.
So then when you're growing up, you're basically doing whatever you want. I know that you were a high school football star, right?
Honestly, I think I joined, well, first of all, my mom wasn't home all day, so I didn't want to go home, right? There's no one there. So I had a 0 period, which was my football, then I had, my 6 periods, and then I had football after. Then I joined, extracurricular activities like choir, and just because I didn't want to go home, might as well just stay in school because I did crazy stuff when, I wasn't in school.
Got it. And so growing up, your dad, he starts coming around when you're about 12, 13. Is he in and out at that point? Is he trying to be a part of your life?
He's trying to be a father, but I didn't let him, and my mom didn't believe, he wanted to mend the relationship. My mom didn't mom was like, okay, are you trying to mend the relationship with me or with your kids? So at the time, he wasn't with my stepmother, so she thought, oh yeah, you're trying to mend a relationship with me, but I don't want you. So he's like, okay, well, I just want to mend a relationship with my kids. But she didn't believe that.
So what did it do to you being raised without a dad? Like, how do you think that affected you?
I didn't know how to be a man. I didn't know what the purpose in life was. I was like, man, I'm going to school. I'm going to graduate. What then? What next? I didn't know what it was. My mom taught me, okay, you have to work hard. Treat women with respect. Just be a good example. But a woman cannot treat a man how to be a man.
But in you, did you feel
Oh yeah, I was angry. I felt like rejected. I was more angry because I'm like, okay, where were you all this time, and now you think I'm just gonna forgive you, So it was angry at me because first he didn't come and apologize. He just like, hey, I'm your dad, So to me it was like, dude, when you're sorry for not being somewhere, you don't ask for forgiveness. But you didn't do that first.
Got it. So then now fast forward a little bit, right? So you're just, you graduate high school, and now you start having a relationship more and more with your dad as you're a young adult, right? But how did that work out?
So I was born in February, so I turned 18. I was still in high school at 18, some people graduate at 17, but I was turning 18, still in high school, and my mom was like, you need to get a job because, I lost my second job, right? So I'm like, oh man, like I just turned 18, like my birthday, you're gonna tell me, hey, don't be a loser, get a job right away. I'm like, okay. And then my dad, he tried to teach me something, so he's like, yeah, you have to get a job. So I'm like, wait, you're telling me, I was a mess, I was just crazy, I was a crazy person. Yeah.
What, it just bothered you that your dad
It just bothered. I didn't like authority. I didn't like people telling me what to do because I found my way to do things on my own. So when someone tell me how to do something, I got upset because I'm like, hey, I did it well on my own. Why are you trying to help me when I didn't?
So he's trying to exert like parental control.
Yeah. I think he didn't know how to be a father. I mean, he wasn't really a father, so it wasn't easy to him, but I didn't want to look at it that way.
Got it. So just to kind of fill in the blanks a little bit, your dad, right? It's interesting the way we met your family, right? Because we were outreaching and we had made contact with your stepmom.
Yeah.
And so my wife says, hey, there's this lady who's interested in coming to Bible study, because this is before we got into the building. And so my wife says, hey, she tells me, let's go down and visit her. We'll introduce ourselves to them. So we go to the house, we knock on the door opens, and it's your dad, right? He tells us, hi, can I help you? And we say, hi, I am a pastor, and this is my wife. We are here to meet Margaret. We got her information because she prayed with somebody. And he got really excited, invited us into the house. And then he starts telling us how he had gotten saved, he was a Christian, all of that. And then he tells us, hey, when you get into your building, I want to go and I want to help support the church, right? That's what your dad tells us. And so you know the story. I'm just kind of giving it for everybody else here. But during that season, right, what was going on in your life?
Well, when I was around 13, 12 years old, I met my stepmother. And she would sometimes take care of us, and sometimes you realize that, okay, my stepmother...
Because she discovered that your dad had these kids.
Yeah, so my stepmother forgave my mom for basically having an affair with her husband because they didn't know. So they became best friends, and they would help each other, So in my mind, I couldn't fathom, okay, I have a brother with my stepmom that I, fell in love with my brother, he was so cool. And I ended up growing up with him. But my dad wasn't there around that time, from 12 to
So your 16. Mom and your stepmom become friends after all this comes out.
Yeah, because they knew my dad was the fault of that relationship.
Yeah, and so she's like, hey, come around and this and that. Yeah. And your stepmom's coming around. So what was going on in your life at that time, during that season, right before you came to church?
I got kicked out of my mom's house because I was doing crazy stuff. I was selling stuff in my room. I was like an exchanger. I would receive back then, I had a Nokia, a little block Nokia, and you'd get a text, right? And it was like $2 for a text, but I would get a text from someone in the street, and they only had my number for a reason. They would tell me what they wanted, and in my room, under my bed, I had stuff that they would buy, because I didn't have a job, so I was like, hey, if I need money, this is what I'm gonna do. And I remember my mom knew I was doing something bad, but she didn't know what the heck I was doing. So she figured I was doing something wrong, and one night I stole her car. I pushed her car. I think I was, I was already 19 years old, but I pushed out her car into the street, and I turned it on, and I took off, and she caught me, and when I came back, she's like, you're not coming in the house. So I slept in her car. I was just afraid, She's the type of person to kill you in your sleep. So I was afraid. So I remember, I'm like, man, I can't. My mom literally, she's done with me. She couldn't stand me. We've never said I love you to each other. So I remember calling my dad, I was like, can I live with you? And he says, of course. He was all happy. And I'm like, dude, I just need to sleep there. That's all I need, sleep and shower. And I didn't last not even a week or 2 weeks there. Me and him always, I was cussing at him. He never cussed at me. And I remember one day I was like, I'm out of here, you know. And he grabbed my arm and I said, let go of me, I'm gonna kill you. And I was like, what the heck? Like, I never thought I would say that, you know. But I remember calling my sister, my older sister. Me and her would always argue, and she was mad at me too. She was always mad at me. And I would call her, and I said, oh, I told my dad, you know, I'm out of here. He's like, no, you're not. And I threw all my stuff outside his house, and I called my sister all mad. Angie, she's like, what do you want? Like, come pick me up now. I'm like, no, you know, I hate you. And I hate you too, but you gotta come pick me up. My dad kicked me out. She's like, all right, 5 minutes. I'm like, all right. She got there in 2-3 minutes. I don't know how. We you know, they live, you know, 10 minutes away. I don't know how she got there in 2 minutes. But she picked me up, and I couldn't believe that, you know, she did that. But I remember that, and my dad. I was at my mom's house, you know, sleeping in the car because I didn't trust her. I honestly thought she would kill me. But I remember thinking to myself, you know, we don't have phones like today. Back in the days, my Nokia, I couldn't pull up YouTube and watch, you know, knockout videos in the car all night long, right? I had my thoughts to myself. I'm like, dude, what am I doing? I'm 19 years old. I graduated high school. I'm supposed to start college. I did, and, you know, I'm failing. You know, what am I going to do with my life? And then I called my dad. I wrote him a letter because, you know, I didn't want to cry. I'm a crybaby. You know, I would beat up people, but, you know, I would cry when it would come to conversations. You know, you would say something, I'll beat you up, but if you would, you know, go one-on-one, you know, I would cry. But I remember writing a letter to my dad and calling him and asking for forgiveness. And we ended up mending our relationship.
So the first service that we have in our building, the first service, this is the absolutely first service that we have in our building. The carpet was installed on a Saturday, and then the Sunday, the following day, we had church. And then you walk in, I think your brother, your stepmom, your dad, and I think your brother Lenny, who was disabled.
Yeah.
We had a few other people there too.
And I remember I was saying sorry to my dad. He's like, okay, I forgive you. And I'm like, wow, that was easy, right? But he said, we had to do one thing for me, is come to church. And I was like, and I was like, because I thought of church as like, my mom was Catholic, so we would go to service two times a year, right? One would be Christmas, and one would be, I don't know, maybe when they were selling tamales or something. So, like, I was like, this is just a drag. I didn't want to go to church, but when I went to church with my dad, I heard the sermon, and I didn't know God before then, but.
So you got saved that service?
Yeah, I got saved about my knee, and I don't remember what the sermon was, but I remember meeting God there. And
it's all right.
What about you?
No one ever remembers.
I just heard hell. I'm just kidding.
Oh, praise God. So since then, what has God done in your life?
That was 19. I'm 28 now. I mean, God helped. First of all, I stopped doing what I was doing. I remember getting saved, and I had to call the guy that, first of all, under my bed, they would buy guns. I don't know what else, maybe buy drugs, and some other things that looked like, I don't know, they looked like knives, but anyway, I had to tell him, like, hey, I know we've been doing this for a year now, but I go to church now, and I can't sell the stuff that I did. And I'm like, because these guys are like 40 years old, you know? They're like, you know.
What's wrong with 40?
I was 19 years old. These guys are 40, and you know they're in the gang or mafia, whatever they are. I don't even honestly. This is a brother that I met at one of my friend's brother that I met in high school. They did all that stuff.
So you tell him I'm done.
I told him I have to give him. I couldn't hear how mad he was, and it's like I have to give the stuff back. He was like, oh, okay. He was mad like that, you know, I threw the stuff away or I did something crazy with it. But once I said I have to give it back, I can't do this anymore. He said, okay. And I just said, thank God, you know. I just honestly, I thought, you know, something bad would happen. I ended up giving and stuff.
And so since then, I mean, you got married, you have a new baby.
Yeah, I have a wife out of reserve that God gave me, and I have a beautiful 2-month daughter. And I'm happy I'm living for God.
There's so much more, you know. Honestly, there's so much more to the story. His sister Angie, him and Angie were like cats and dogs, his older sister, she ended up getting saved. What happened is she got cancer. And on her deathbed, she ended up, I prayed, gave her life to Christ. And what's amazing is that she would tell me, she told me, because I would visit her in the hospital, and she would say, Pastor, I can't wait to get better and come out of the hospital and go to church with my kids. She was hopeful. She really got saved. And I remember her telling me, you know, I used to look at Sal and I used to think, man, I want what he has. And she ended up getting saved, and unfortunately she ended up passing from cancer, but she was saved. Thank God for that. And so the power of one life. And then why don't we give God praise?